All right, we're rolling. Cool. Today I'm going to show you exactly how I scaled this influencer in keto niche from 0 to 200,000 euros. A little bit less than a year, even though the Stripe screenshot shows a little bit more than a year. But I started measuring ever since the first day we started working together. And technically, we are still working together, even though we're doing much less volume right now because we're changing things inside the business. Anyway, you're not here for my yapping, you're here for like the actual step-by-step stuff. So these are the things that we're actually going to see in this video: disclaimers, content strategy, offers, lead magnets, funnels, evergreens, and launches, and then the scaling. In this video, you're going to see a clear implementation process. So I want you to watch this video till the end. And if you watch it till the end, you'll have enough information just to grab everything I told you, implement it into your account, and it can work. Also, I want you to avoid my mistakes because obviously, while you start from zero, or you're starting from 10K, you're starting from 15K, 20K, whatever it is, and you scale to that number, there is a shit ton of mistakes that you're going to make. And those mistakes are going to cost you either a lot of time or a lot of money. And this is exactly what happened to me. So because I'm a nice person, I don't want that to happen to you. Then we're going to speak about fast tracking the results. This is the part where I'm going to pitch you how we can work together. If you want to get to results faster, if you want to save time and you also want to save money, there is a possibility. At the end of the day, you're here because you want the solution. So let me give you the solution. But before, let's jump into disclaimers. Okay? The results that you're seeing here are extremely achievable. There's nothing crazy about them. If you have a right system in place, if you have right step-by-step implementation, it is simple to get to 200K. Notice how I didn't say easy, I said simple. Okay? Also, this is not a magic pill video where I'm going to promise you everything, how you're going to achieve those great results by not doing the work, how it's going to be super easy. No, you need to work hard. But the thing is, you can work hard for 2 years, eat shit, make mistakes, and then eventually get to the results. But you can also work hard for 3 months, and you can have a clear step-by-step roadmap to get to the results without eating that much shit. Okay? I want you to understand as well that everything is input and output. Okay? Meaning that whatever we do, we track and we improve. This is basically the number one core thing I got away from this project while we scaled to 200 plus K. Okay, this video works perfectly for influencers that solve a specific problem. Example, weight loss, making money through marketing, making money through Facebook ads. If you have a course, info works great. Okay. Another thing I want you to notice is that there is no absolute, in the sense that there is no black and white. There is no do this, don't do that. It's all matter of trying, testing, measuring, improving, and then seeing what works for your audience. There is no such thing as, let's say I work with a keto weight loss influencer and then I go into finance niche and I work with a finance influencer. I'm going to get completely different results. Or maybe if I'm working with the keto influencer and then tomorrow I start working with the influencer that does keto as well, but her age is 25, there's also going to be a different ball game. So there's no absolutes. You have to take my, I'll say, thinking process, because that's what I want to transmit, and then try to implement it into your account, right? Okay, let's start with the content strategy. So when we started working together with Ari, okay, her username is different, but her name is Ari. The first thing I looked at is top performer reels. And I looked at them in 3 tiers. I looked at the top of funnel, medium funnel, bottom of funnel. As you know, number one brings the audience, then medium one nurtures the audience, and then the third one makes that audience buy or actually take the next step, which is usually purchase driven. Okay. Then I analyze the story views, patterns. When do the people view the stories the most? Why do they view them the most? Just basically to get a general understanding, to take a step back and like, okay, this is the reason why this is working. This is the reason why that is working. This is the reason that this is not working. And how do we need to remove this? Because you already have the data. You have all the information that you need to have in order to take action. So it doesn't make sense just starting and going into action straight away. You need to prepare yourself and you need to analyze exactly what is going on with the account. Doesn't matter if you're 10K, doesn't matter if you're 30K. Okay, these principles, they apply basically on any different level. Okay, then I look at the audience habits. How did they behave? What did they view to? What did they respond? Why do they interact? How do they interact? What's their preferable way of interacting? Then I focus on increasing those interactions. And I do this mostly by giving stuff away for free and actually giving genuine value. Okay. Because to increase the interactions, you need to cause a feeling of, wow, I'm seeing this person in stories and I want to interact with that person. Okay. You don't want to be a person that just goes to stories to sell, because this is another issue that we actually run into. Okay. They need to give stuff away for free. You need to have your tracking in place. You need to have a system. And then once I analyze those things and I focus on prioritizing stories, interacting with the audience, I create a content system. And the content system is basically, instead of you researching 20,000 ideas every single night, spending for 5 to 6 hours a day, you have a solid system that you get your ideas. Based on your ideas, you do 2 hours a day of just researching and understanding based on all the inputs that we had from the audience, as you can see here, right? And then based on that, you create a strategy for a month, everything you're going to upload when it's Reels or YouTube. And then once that is done, you just sit down, you record, and that's your content. Okay. This is how marketing starts. This is how, if you want to sell anything, I plan it in batches. So instead of just like focusing on singular pieces, plan a month, plan the intention for the month. If your intention is to sell, to grow the audience, whatever it is, once that is done, then we have a content strategy. And then we create a flywheel. And flywheel is basically, I make YouTube videos. Let's say there are 4 YouTube videos that I make. And in those 4 YouTube videos, there's actually 16 possible reels that I can upload. So 16 times 4 is, quick math on top of my head, 24, 16 times 4, 4. So there's like 64 pieces of reels that I can create from those YouTube videos. Plus, additionally, if I have reels on the side, then I can also implement the reels. So see what I'm getting? Every single thing that you do with your account, when it comes to content, you have to make the most out of it. So that's why we also created a flywheel. What did this give us? So analyzing the top performer reels, we understood exactly what attracts the new audience, what nurtures the audience, and what converts, or what makes the audience to convert. Then we also saw the story view patterns. These story view patterns basically made us understand, like, okay, what type of stories do we need to do to attract attention, and then just grab that attention and then put it towards a funnel, put it towards a lead magnet, etc., etc. So that's super important to understand, because stories is the number one sales tools, and we can speak about it later on in the video. And then we just focus on increasing interaction. As said, giving stuff for free is lead magnets, which we're going to talk about in the sec as well, and tracking, most important thing, and making a system and a flywheel. All right, let's jump into offers. So once we started working together, the actual way of us getting the offers was speaking to the audience. So once we'd done the analysis, what we did is we created a couple of story sequences in Ari's account, and those story sequences basically were lifestyle stories, what she was doing during the day, and there was multiple stories. So we were transitioning the audience from not getting used to see Ari in stories to creating a habit of them seeing Ari in stories. And whenever Ari was in stories, she was communicating about her life or stuff like this. So people were just actually tuning in based on the curiosity. Okay. Then once we've done that process for 2 weeks, the next step was to get those people that were watching her, which was, I think when we started, was around 3,000. But then eventually we got the story views up to 5.5, 6, and even sometimes we had 15,000 story views. It really depends. Okay, so once we went through the lifestyle process and just getting the audience used to like the stories that we were doing, the next step was to gather information. So to gather information, we asked a set of questions in stories, and you can do that with polls. Why did we ask a set of questions? Well, as you can see, we're in the offer section. You cannot make an offer that just solves a problem in your head and expect people to buy. Okay? You always need to have the feedback from your avatar, your ICP, your client. So that's exactly what we did. We spoke to the audience. In order to speak to the audience, we use stories as a tool. Not only we asked them questions through polls, but additionally, we also made a Google form. made an initiative for people to click on a Google form, because we said, if you fill this form out, you give us information. That's basically what we receive. And in exchange, you receive a gift. So that gave us, I think, around 600 answers in Google Forms. And then also we took it a step further. We actually booked a call with those followers for 30 minutes. And throughout those 30 minutes, we asked them a specific set of questions to understand the exact problem that they were dealing with. So offer really doesn't come from here, right? It just comes by speaking to the audience and knowing exactly what the fuck they're dealing with, what hurts them the most, what are their biggest pains. And then once we understood that, the offer was super clear. So this is the smart way to approach it. And if you've done it differently previously, I suggest you follow that specific process. And then also, if you've done the same process but a long time ago, I suggest you do it in cycles. So every half a year or whenever you get like a solid amount of followers, okay? It's the best way to create offers. This is going to get you, like, this is going to increase your conversions by 2x, basically, compared if you do it just in your head, okay? Then, based on that, we started testing pricings and seeing conversion. So for the first launch that we did was 65,000 in revenue and 45,000 in net profit. We started focusing on pricing and conversion. So that was like the first chunk, like the first launch, 45,000 net. Before we launched, which was December, we started working together, and then January eventually we launched. We had a pre-sale, and we used the pre-sale to test the offer. Okay, so there were a lot of people texting us in the DMs because the stories were good, reels were good. We were speaking about specific problem that the avatar had in our stories, in our reels. We also had top of funnel, which was attracting new followers, and for top of funnel, simplest thing that actually worked. What worked is when we analyzed Ari's profile, we realized that recipe videos work the best. So we started making more recipe videos, and some of them got like 2 million views, 1 million views, and then those brought in like 6,000 new followers within a week. And then we're like, okay, if our middle funnel, which is nurturing, and our bottom of funnel is tuned in, and then also we have stories speaking about specific problems and giving solutions, because we know exactly who the avatar is based on the conversations that we had, is going to be super simple to sell. And this, as you can see, is just a logical process, right? If I sit here and then let's say my girlfriend is sitting across the room, without asking her what she wants to have for dinner, I might guess, but there are so many different guesses that I need to go through until I actually find the real answer. So the easiest way will be asking, what does she want for dinner? And then from there, I will know exactly where to go for dinner. So same with the offer, okay? So backtracking to pricing and conversions, okay? My ADHD kicked in, so I went a little bit off the script. Pricing and conversions, when we did the pre-sale in the middle of December, it was super easy to realize how much can we charge. And we started at the lowest, which was, I think, 400, which was the low ticket offer. And then we eventually scaled to 2.4. We realized that for our offer, 2.4 was too much to charge. So we dropped it down to 1.9, and 1.9 was a sweet spot. Generally, you're looking to close at least 3 calls out of 10. That's good. If you're closing too much, maybe your pricing is a little bit too low. And if you're closing too little, maybe your pricing is a little bit too high. But pricing is not the only metrics that you should look at. You should also look at the offer itself. So how do people react, and what feedback do they give, and what objections do they have on a sales call? And the funnel to get them to the sales call was simple. So what we did is, as said, reels, stories. From stories, they usually went to look at a lead magnet, which was either a YouTube video. And to access that lead magnet, they will have to go to a WhatsApp group. And then basically, if you are familiar with webinar launches, you bring into the WhatsApp group to have like a closer proximity and being able to have their phone number and the full name. So once they were in the WhatsApp group, we would implement our team of setters that would just text them and be like, hey, I've seen you were interested in this. What's your pains? Da, 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 da. And then eventually we got them to a sales call. And we did, like, I think in pre-sale, around 20 calls approximately. And in the pre-sale, we already made, I think, a good chunk of cash. It was like 20,000 or something like this, okay? And then we speak about the perfect offer stack. So that was the first launch. That was a concrete example with the first launch. Another thing that is super important is the offer stack. As you heard, we started with high ticket offer directly. And the reason it worked is just because our organic audience was extremely strong. Now, if that wasn't the case, it would be so complicated to sell a 1.5K or 1.9K ticket to someone that you don't know. You need to nurture, okay? And just middle funnel might not help with nurturing. You might need long form content in order to nurture even better. Side note, that's the reason we made the lead magnets in the video format, okay? So the perfect offer stack, and that's what we realized after a year of working together. See, a year. I'm saving you a year just by giving this advice. We realized that the best way to sell, instead of just high ticket, because high ticket requires a lot of effort, okay? Or at least personally in this situation, because I've seen people sell high tickets with ease. So it really depends. As I said, there's no absolutes, all right? We scratched the high ticket stuff, or at least like as a consistent sale, and we implemented a low ticket. And then from low ticket, we implemented a mid ticket, which would upgrade from the low naturally. And then we would have a high ticket offer. So see how good the offer distribution is. People would go in for a low ticket. And for the low ticket, I will explain the funnel shortly. They would go in, they buy. It's a 21 day challenge to lose 4 kilos of fat. They're like, fuck, great offer, let's go. They jump in, 21 days go by, and they realize, like, okay, I need to take the next step. Otherwise, I'm going to backtrack, and this 21-day progress is just going to be wiped out. What happens there? They would upgrade naturally. And the people who didn't do the 21-day challenge, they wouldn't upgrade. So they would still buy. So your ad budget bounces back. And those who would upgrade, they would naturally go into that second medium ticket offer. And now you're probably wondering what's going on with the high ticket offer. With the high ticket offer, we would launch it through organic, because in organic we would nurture the audience with middle of funnel content. And then once we nurture, we would do launches. And then that's how we sold our low ticket. And then you can also sell it evergreen. The only thing is it really depends on the offer, okay? And if we speak about organic versus paid, when it comes to selling offers, low tickets, super easy to sell to cold audience or retargeting. When it comes to medium tickets, I say like 300 to 500, it is a little bit more complicated to sell directly through paid. You would have to have a closer. And if you give your closer a commission, they're probably not going to agree because it's not enough. So you will have to hire like a full-time closer that just takes the sales calls. And then also that's going to cost you a good buck. So I think medium ticket organic works good, because then you can just launch it through webinar. And then organic works very well to sell high ticket programs, because on organic, you just build trust. Lead magnets. Stuff that we did with lead magnets. We gave so much value for free. It was fucking absurd. Since it wasn't weight loss and it wasn't keto, it was super easy to give like solid tips. And when I look at the lead magnets, I want to put in lead magnets stuff that would, for example, solve a problem so fast, right? And would give me visible results. For example, in keto, since it's a type of nutrition that switches you from carbs and switches you to just like proteins and fats, what happens is in the first 2-3 days, if you do a hard switch from eating carbs to no carbs and just the meat and just the fats, you start losing fat so fast. So we would give tips like that like in 5 days, this is how you can lose up to 1 kilo of fat. And then we'll just give exact step by step exactly what to eat, and it'll be in a video format. Because the more the audience spends the time watching the content of the influencer, or you in that case, the more they trust you. So that's why we did it in a video format. But you can do it in PDF or downloadables or whatever it is. People just need to perceive like, wow, if I listen to this person, that person gives me so much value that I want to listen more to that person. You want to create that excitement in your audience. You want your audience to feel like, okay, every time you post, I want to speak to this influencer, and I want to speak to him because he does it so well and I get so much value from it. Satisfaction for delivery is when you deliver a lead magnet, you want that person to feel good. So you want like a solution that implements fast. You just don't want it to be a shit ton of information that is so hard to implement, okay? And you will need to create a desire to want more. So even though you solve that problem of losing 1 kilo, you kind of give a specific step by step of what they can implement without you. You have to be a core piece in that sequence, right? So you don't want to give them the full detailed plan on how to do it. You just want to give them like a first chunk, make them notice the result, and then whenever they notice that result, they would naturally want to go back to you. Okay. Funnels. Couple of rules for funnels. Don't overcomplicate them. Set them up for the easiest use. Have a perfect distribution. Test. Most importantly, you can just create a funnel, launch ads towards it, and be like, okay, this is done. And if it doesn't convert, you blame it on whatever it is, right? You just need to have variables. Okay, you need to test one funnel that solves one specific problem. For example, this funnel that you're in this video that you're watching, I'm solving a money problem. I'm getting you from point A to point B, and the point B is 100,000. Okay, so think of funnels like this. See how people react with your ads, see how people enter, why they enter, see how they view your VSL, see why they view your VSL, see where they drop off. So all these details you need to test and you need to get that information, okay? And feedback loops, most important thing. You cannot just create something, throw it out, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's not business. You need to create something. You need to put it out. You need to create your offer. You need to create your VSL. You need to create the VSL funnel and test and see if it works. Till this day, after a year of working together, we're still testing things. We're still testing with different funnels. And actually, one of the recent implementation is we have a questionnaire funnel, which is going to be a banger because I heard from friends that they have 6% conversion rate. 6% on the funnel when the average is 3%. And that's what we get. We get 3.27 for the low ticket offer. So imagine 6%. So that's why you constantly need to involve and test stuff. Okay. Then I want to speak about evergreen versus launches. There's a dilemma. I think for low tickets, go to evergreen, pump it up with ads, give it a shit ton of cash, make sure that you have so many clients in your low ticket offer. When they come to the low ticket offer, over deliver as fuck, give them so much value that they would naturally would want to upgrade. But again, don't give them the entire sauce. Okay. Then, okay, ads to evergreen funnel. That's exactly what I'm speaking about. You drive ads only to your evergreen funnel, and your evergreen funnel is low ticket, and then that low ticket upsells into medium ticket. That's my strategy. You can go directly into the high ticket. Also works. Depends on the low ticket and how much value you provide. Okay, you're gonna have to have internal upgrade system. So whenever you spend a lot of money on the low ticket people that come in, you do the service. You can even break even on the ad budget that you have. Let's say you drop in 20K for the ads, and then you just get like 19,000 or 20,000 in return. You probably start to panic, but the thing is, if you have a good upgrade system that drives these people that you attracted with that 20K ad budget to the next step, it makes them convert, then you sort it. You need to look at the purchasing cycle, like instead of a month to 3 months, and then you can just pin it down and see how much return you're getting. Okay. And then revenue peaks, exactly what we use launches for. We launch through webinar, and our step by step is the organic content. First, top of funnel, then a lot of medium funnel, then a lot of bottom of funnel lead magnets, a lot of story sequences. Once we do the story sequences, then we drive action to the next step from Instagram, which is WhatsApp. They go into the WhatsApp group, and WhatsApp group we do a masterclass or a webinar, however you want to call it. And then from there we sell, and we don't sell directly the high tickets. We sell them through a closer. So the CTA on a webinar is to book a call. Scaling. When you're going to go through this entire process and take some of the valuable points that I gave you, and maybe you already have something that works. Maybe you already have a good team distribution. Maybe you don't have a team. Maybe you're solo and you're doing 10K a month solo, or 20K, or whatever it is. When you scale, two things you need to focus on. One, eliminate things to make all the processes simpler, because that's what I noticed that was dragging us down in this project for quite some time. And whenever you implement something new, it gets complicated, all right? Because there's an adjustment period until, like, for example, we implemented an AI setter. It took us 3 months to make that AI setter work, okay? And I'm not just saying like because we're dumb. I'm just saying that because you have to train it and you have to explain to other team members how this setup works. And you do trial and error until it works perfectly. So that's why you need to eliminate things, make it as simple as possible. The simplest setup is you do organic, your organic is solid, you do ads, you take those ads, bring it to the low ticket offer, then from this low ticket, upsell it to high ticket. I wouldn't even put a medium ticket if you can. That will be the best distribution. And it will be super simple to deliver the service, to have the people help you, which is hiring, and then to upsell. If you have that dialed in, that's a perfect setup. But obviously, again, there's no absolutes. You have to look at it from your niche. But based on my experience, that's what I've seen works pretty well. Okay. Then team distribution, one of the most important things. You need to know how to hire. You need to first delegate your outreach, closing, whatever it is, setting, and then from there you need to build on top of that. So some of the influencers, they still edit videos. Completely eliminate that, hire somebody. And if you have an editor and if you have a person that sells the stuff or does the outreach, you're golden. All you need to do is to create content, because that's the number one thing you can outsource. And if you want someone to do operations, which is a day-by-day process, or like the actual service delivery, you would need another person for that. Okay, this is a real business. This is what actually separates like a 10K a month earner versus the one that scales to 100K. Then you need to look at delivery and fulfillment, and most importantly, standard operating processes, SOPs, how you deliver service, and try to reduce the amount of time it takes you to deliver to that one client you sell. Try to systematize everything. Try to have Claude do this process, that process. Just make it simple. You don't go to the dentist and you don't pay dentist €1,000 for him to remove your tooth in 3 hours. You want the dentist to remove it in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter how much you pay. The only thing that matters is the result that you bring. Okay. Most important thing, be aware of the burn and don't scale too fast. Be aware of the burn is don't burn your organic audience, because that's something super complicated to bring back to life. Don't scale too fast, because if you scale too fast, you overhire, and if you overhire, you usually hire shit people, and if you hire shit people, then it will reflect on your business. Okay, cool. So this has been the entire overview of how you can scale from 0 to 200K. This is based on my experience, and obviously, if you want to work together, you have a button below. Let's jump on a call, and I will speak to you more about exactly what I do and what I can do for you. Thank you.